Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, Layla here. So now that the Ohuhu alcohol brush markers have officially been released, and since I've done a first impressions review of them, I've received a ton of comments asking for another comparison with how the Ohuhu brush markers compare to the Copic brush markers. With this comparison, I'm gonna be a little more technical because I really want to highlight all the differences and similarities between these two brands. So first, the look of the markers is the biggest visual difference. The Ohuhu's being white with a round barrel, and the Copics being ovalish and gray. Both markers have a gray band on one side, indicating the brush nib, and the other side is the chisel nib. The chisel nibs on both are pretty much the same, with the chisel nib on Ohuhu being kind of slightly bulkier and thicker than Copic. And then on the other side, we have our brush nibs. I'm gonna take a look at those. And so the brush nibs also seem pretty similar in length and structure, but Copic seems to be a bit fuller, whereas Ohuhu seems to come to a finer point. So now that we have the cosmetic differences down, let's take a look at a few other features really quick before I get started on coloring with them. And so the next thing that I want to do is a quick blending comparison. So we have Ohuhu on the left and Copic on the right, and let's go ahead and see how they do. And so I basically just went from a rosy pink to a deeper pink, almost red, and then took it all down to a brownish color to do just a little bit more darkening on this side to see how it blended in with these two reddish hues. And I think it did pretty well. Let's try Copic. All right, and as expected, Copic blends beautifully, and I don't see too much of a difference between the two. I think they did both a great job. And so I do want to do ink flow testing. So I'm going to take this reddish color and kind of show how the ink is, and it just glides right over the paper. It's really amazing how the ink flow is on this one, on the Ohuhu, I should say. And then I'm going to try a similar color on the Copic. So with the Copic, I had a little bit of trouble, and it's more just due to the nib is much more flexible. So that's not exactly a bad thing. And overall, the ink flow was really good. And so I went ahead and did a quick color match. So these are my color scheme markers that I've chosen. And I feel the colors definitely match. We've got Copic on the right side here, Ohuhu on the left, and I feel they're pretty close. So the character that I'm doing is this girl. So this character follows along with the same theme as my previous verses do. And basically this character is based off of a planet like the others. And I always never really reveal which planet it is until the end. So take a guess in the comments below who you think it is. So Ohuhu side skin is done with the first layer. And I just used the Rose Beige BR3, and the color most similar to that on the Copic is E13, which is a light suntan. So let's see how this goes. I almost put the cap on the back, but I forgot that Copic caps don't go on the back. Oh, that's a difference. Whereas the other caps on the Ohuhus do. So that's a little bit more convenient. And so it's definitely really noticeable that the Copic skin color that I'm using here is much more toned down. I personally enjoy it more than the other side, but I also feel like the Ohuhus are currently limited. The brush markers are currently limited as far as colors go. So definitely with the skin tones, there's not as many colors, or color options, I should say. But I'm sure that's going to change pretty quickly in the future as Ohuhu releases more packs of their colors, because they do have, I believe, an 80 count pack, 100 count pack, and then the 120 count pack, at least in the classic ones that they do. I'm sure for their brush markers they're going to do the same sort of color ranges. But yeah, so far I'm really enjoying the color that I'm getting on the Copic side more than the Ohuhu. So now I'm just going to go in with shading on the Ohuhu side. And so I definitely think this potato brown color on the Ohuhu side kind of tones down the oranginess of the rose beige that I just finished with. So that's good. Now I'm going back to the Copic side and doing the same thing. All my shadows. All right, I'm gonna do her lips. I'm definitely liking the Copic side at the moment, just a little bit more. Ohuhus are pretty much known to be extremely vibrant, and I've always loved that about them, but I don't think it works too much for these darker skin tone colors. They don't look as natural, they look more on the orangey side. Could be just me though, not sure. Definitely like how the lips turned out on this side. So now I'm just adding in some gray, like a cool gray tone to the skin, just to get some more tones, more value, I guess you could say. And usually I don't like to use gray for shading because I feel it really dulls out a picture. However, in this case, I'm just going over certain brown areas of the skin and it's coming out pretty good and it's not really dulling the picture or her skin. And so the biggest reason I wanted to use a gray though was because the Copic side could use some more value. The two colors that I chose for her skin were quite close in value, so I don't feel like any of the shading is all that prominent. And so it started looking a little too flat. Definitely think adding the gray was a good choice, and I was able to achieve really good value without making it look too muddy. So have you guessed which planet it is? I feel like the pink hair is a bit of a giveaway. Gotta admit, I feel I got a little crazy with the flow of this hair. But at this point, I feel like crazy flowing hair is just part of my style. So expect to see a lot more of it. And going on to the Copic side, the pinks are not completely equal as far as saturation goes. Definitely the closest I had on hand. I do wish the Copic had more ink flow. I just feel like I really have to try and get that ink to come out. You know why? 'Cause I'm out. Whoops. Yeah, I can see it now. Dang. No. Yep, I'm out. There's just no more color coming out of this. Well, I think it's time for me to get a few more new Copics. That stinks. Oh well, gosh. Okay, so I went out and bought another pink color so that I can finish this. And basically I just bought another marker of the same color because I feel like I'm gonna get a few comments saying, you know, Copic has refill ink. Yes, I do know that. And I also know that the prices are a little much. So meaning the various ink is kind of pricey too. And I also went and bought this marker locally at my Hobby Lobby. So unfortunately, my local Hobby Lobby does not sell various ink. So there's that. I'm just gonna move my Copics really quick. And I tend to color on the side like this just so I have better control. See, I just messed up. And went out of the lines. But just so I have better control with my lines and so I can move my wrist more freely. One comment that I got recently on the review that I came out with the brush markers of the Ohuhus was somebody had hoped that I would get more into the negatives. The only cons that I feel are, I do wish they were refillable. So they're a one-use marker. Once you're done with them, you throw them out and that's that. Whereas with Copics, you're able to buy the various ink and refill them, so you're never wasting the plastic of the marker. And I've always enjoyed that. I've always liked that setup. And I really feel Ohuhu could definitely do something like that, and many people would really enjoy that. So that's one of the issues that I have with Ohuhu. And then my next con being that I wish Ohuhu had more colors. So basically there's only a 48 count set as of right now. That's definitely something that I'm expecting to change pretty quickly, because we all know that Ohuhu has a total count of 120 colors in their classic set. And beyond that, I really do feel that they could expand into even more colors, because everyone knows that Ohuhu is very vibrant and in your face as far as the color selection goes, and that's great, but they could definitely benefit from having more pastel colors and just very toned down colors, the way that some of the Copic colors are as well. If I had to name another con, I would say that I do wish that the Ohuhus blended better or more easily. When I did the demonstration of the Copic and the Ohuhu blending earlier in the video, you could definitely not see a huge difference. I think they were really comparable and equal as far as the blending went, but I did have to blend just a little bit more with my Ohuhus than I did with the Copics, where the blending is just slightly easier. But honestly, I expect that from a, $6 to $7 a piece marker. I wouldn't expect anything less, Whereas when you have a Ohuhu and they're barely $1 per marker, they do fantastic for their price. And to me, I feel like that's a big deal, not just with me, but with other artists out there who can't exactly afford the prices that Copic is asking for. And I understand that a lot of the price comes from the import of these markers, which is a shame, because I do know that if you were to buy Copic in Japan, they are $3 a piece, and that's a huge difference compared to at Hobby Lobby. They literally have them priced at $7.99 per marker, and I'm sure Hobby Lobby even ups their price even more, because I have seen them for closer to $5 to $6 a marker. But regardless, that import fee is really like, whoa. So, and the other thing is Ohuhu is also imported. They're made in China. I also got an interesting comment asking how different the brush nibs were between the Copics and the Ohuhus. And in the question they asked, are the brush nibs closer to the way the Copics are? As in, are they rubber? And I really found that question interesting, because I actually did not know that Copic's nibs were rubber. And I haven't completely confirmed that because I haven't researched it. But I really don't find a huge difference between the brush nibs. They're both quite flexible. If Ohuhu is made out of rubber, I'm not sure. I'm gonna assume that it's not, because I feel like rubber would be quite expensive. And given the price of the Ohuhu versus the Copic, it doesn't seem likely. But again, I can't 100% confirm or deny that. I would say that the Ohuhu nibs are slightly firmer than the Copics. And I feel that way because I don't have great control over the Copic nibs. So when I'm doing long flowy lines, I kind of can't control the nib as well. Whereas when the nib is firmer, I can control it a little bit better, but I assume that's only because the nib is firmer. And of course, if that's the case, it's not that much firmer than the Copic, because I know a few were afraid of the nibs being too stiff, and I wouldn't say it's stiff at all. It's definitely quite bendable, and it returns back to its original shape after applying a lot of pressure. So this, I feel, is a good example of the color values. So because Ohuhu's so vibrant and rich in its color, the eye color here is a little just too unnoticeable, if that makes sense. Like for instance, I can't really tell her pupil against the color of her eye. Whereas in this side with the Copic, I definitely can. So I think I'll just go ahead and take one of my darker gray Ohuhu colors, kind of level that out a bit. Might even have to go slightly darker. And there, that works a lot better. But now this one looks uneven. Let me do it also on the other side for the Copic. And then some eye shinies. And this is just a Sakura Jelly Roll gel pen in white. Get a lot of questions about this. And now I'm just doing her shirt or sweater, I guess, in gray. I feel like it balances out all the vibrant colors that I used, and like her hair and her eyes and the background that I'm gonna do. That, and I'm also slightly limited when it comes to color selection on Copics because they're expensive. So like literally this is probably a good like 1/2 of all the Copics I own, and that's including the Copic Chows. But I'm gonna do another versus with the Copic Chows since they are slightly different from the Copic Sketch. And then I'm just gonna do a blue background, going from like a light-ish blue to a darkish blue towards the bottom. I always try to like do a circular motion just to make it even, but I always find this to be hard because I feel like no matter how many times you do circling motions and how many times you go over it, getting a nice even fill is just really difficult. And that's not just for Copic, that's for any alcohol marker that I've tried. So that includes Ohuhu and Bianyo and everything else. Artix doesn't seem to be marker specific. You see what I mean? It's just splotchy, and I just don't know how to really get a nice, good, even fill. So if you got any suggestions for that, let me know in the comments below, because I definitely don't claim to be the best marker colorer ever. I still have a lot to learn. So now that I'm coloring the background on the Ohuhu side, I can definitely say with 100% confidence that the brush nib is firmer, because I am applying more pressure than I was on the Copic side, and the nib is still pretty firm as I put the pressure on. And again, splotchiness, where I just go ahead and apply layer after layer after layer to see if I can sort of get somewhat of an even tone. Ugh, that's rough. This is why I hate doing backgrounds in general. I'm not a fan. So I definitely feel like there's more splotchiness when it comes to the Ohuhu side. My interesting abstract looking stars are coming out pretty cool. I figured it would help level out the splotchiness that's going on in the background on both sides, and I feel I was right. And I'm done. I've been wanting to compare the Ohuhu brush markers to the Copics since I first heard that Ohuhu was coming out with brush markers. So this comparison has been super fun to do. And as always, I never choose the winner. I leave that part up to you, because everyone's different. Everyone has their own preferences when it comes to markers. So definitely let me know in the comments below who you think won or which one you prefer. And also, if you guessed that the character was based off planet Venus, congrats, you're right. If you enjoyed this video, maybe comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.